The Babadook is an Australian horror movie written and directed by Jennifer Kent that is a film I was really interested in seeing because I've become sort of sick and tired of horror movies that just try and startle you, basically jump out and say, you know, shout boo in your face, and don't actually make an effort to scare you. And having read a couple of reviews of The Babadook, you know, people were saying, oh, it really makes an effort to scare you, so I thought, right, we'll give it a go. The plot basically follows a character of Amelia, who is a widowed orderly, basically single mother, living with her son Samuel, who is one of these little kids who's basically obsessed with like the monster under the bed and stuff like that. She's raising him on her own and struggling, to be honest, because Samuel's a little bit of a little shit, really. So in one scene they find a storybook, like a children's book called The Babadook, which she reads to him and unwittingly sort of awakens a creature called the Babadook who sort of proceeds to terrorise them for the rest of the movie. What this film has going for it are two just fantastic central performances from both Essie Davis playing Amelia and Noah Wiseman playing Samuel. Both actors have, first of all, a really good chemistry, and I think between mother and son characters, obviously that's really important. But both actors are so good in this movie. Essie Davis brings so much vulnerability and such a sort of layered performance to the film, in that she is tortured, but sort of all the way through, and I guess you could consider this a minor spoiler. It's ambiguous as to whether or not the Babadook is actually terrorising the pair, or if it's all in her head. Now, that's something that, you know, we've seen in horror movies thousands of times, and when it's done well it can really work, and in this film it's done really well. The character of Amelia, you see the film through her eyes, and you see how run down she's become at looking after, you know, a sort of problem child, and how this affects her, and it really does sort of beat her up over the course of the film, and you really feel for her. And Essie Davis is so good at sort of bringing the audience into her sort of perspective. She was just fantastic in this, and I don't know what the rules are for, you know, what's eligible for Oscar nominations, but she definitely deserves a Best Actress nod. She was really terrific in this. Noah Wiseman playing Samuel that's a character that could so easily be really annoying, and all too often in these types of horror movies you find that the creepy little kid who like draws creepy pictures and stuff, you know, are really annoying. But Noah Wiseman isn't. You know, you really sort of grow to really like him over the course of the film, and I think that's a sort of testament to his performance, in that he manages to get the audience on side like that. I'm going to sort of stay away from the plot because I wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone. It's a little movie, so whether or not you will have had the opportunity to see it in the theatres remains to be seen, but it will be out on Blu-ray and I'd recommend it. So I'm going to stay away from the plot, but basically what really works for me in this film as well is how they construct a scare. I don't remember one single jump scare. Really, what this film relies upon, and what Jennifer Kent, the director, relies upon, is haunting imagery along with a score and placement of people and objects within the frame. She really sort of plays with the audience's perspective and uses that sort of haunting imagery to creep you out rather than make you jump, because the problem with sort of jumpy movies is, yes, you're startled and whatever in the film, but it doesn't stay with you. You know, you're not going to go home and go to bed with the lights on because somebody made you jump 2 hours ago. But if you're presented with a haunting image or a sort of creepy story, then that might stay with you, and I think the Babadook will. It was very effective in that regard. The actual Babadook itself, when you do catch glimpses of the creature, they make the smart decision not to show him in all his glory in, you know, a wide shot, which is clever because, you know, I think what remains unseen is always more scary. And when you do see him, he's a combination of maybe a guy in a suit, and it looks like a stop motion as well, but it basically looks like the creature is basically in camera and made practically, which I really enjoyed from a filmmaking perspective. I thought that's really refreshing nowadays to see that. It had a very sort of retro, maybe 80s feel to it, and also made it that little bit creepier. You know, when you have a stop motion creature sort of crawling on the ceiling, it's something that's actually there that you could reach out and touch. It has that tangible quality to it, and that makes it scarier to me. I honestly really can't fault this movie. As far as a horror movie goes, I really enjoyed it. You know, Jennifer Kent manages, she wrote as well as directed this, to make you care about these two characters, and I think that's why it works so well. In that, the sort of horrible things that happen to these people, you care because you care about the characters, and that's another problem that modern horror movies, by and large, seem to have. But because you care, it makes it all the more effective when stuff does hit the fan. So, The Babadook, I have to say, it's one of the most effective horror movies I've seen in a long time. But in terms of just a film, if you take it out the horror genre, it's a really interesting character piece about potential mental illness, the relationship between mother and son, and grief. It's like a character study dressed up as a horror movie. And from that perspective, I really enjoyed it, and it will more than likely end up on my top 10 films of the year. So The Babadook, if you do get the opportunity to see it, I would highly recommend it. It's probably one of the year's best horror movies.